down here on the start, and you can see that unfortunately the rain is falling for the riders. They're pretty used to it, so that won't put them off. Let's take a look at our main contenders. So last year's winner, Kirsten Wild, and along with Chloe Hosking, a very, very fast sprinter, our home rider, Hannah Barnes, Lotte Lepista, Corinne Rivera, Jolien de Hoorde, and Mariana Voss. So these really, along with some other riders as well, are our real favourites to look for tonight.
Yeah, this race is stacked with some of the best sprinters in the world. Of course, the prize money means that there's a lot of incentive to be here, but also just this opportunity to race in such an iconic location. And to hold your hands up on the mile is pretty special.
Let's take a look at the route for the riders, and we have 12 lots of 5.5 kilometre circuit, starting and finishing in the Mall past Buckingham Palace into Constitution Hill. Then along Birdcage Walk, they've got a tight left-hand bend into Parliament Street, through Whitehall, then up the Strand, and this is the tricky part, especially in the wet, through the Strand, up through Trafalgar Square, and a very fast finish down here in the Mall. So 12 laps, 5.5 kilometres in total. These riders, though, Sharon, very used to the wet. That tight, tricky turn around the Strand, that 180-degree bend. Do you think that might pose a problem for us tonight?
Yeah, the riders are used to racing in the rain, but some riders really don't like it, and I think we'll have a lot more nervous riders than you would if it was a dry. And I think it will make the race a little bit slower as well. Hopefully not too many crashes, which, of course, is always a risk in the rain because it does get a bit slippy.
And here's our previous winners. So Laura Trott, Laura Kenya, she is now taking the first edition of this race. Back in 2013, a real legacy event of the London Olympic Games in 2012. Giorgia Bronzini of Wiggle High 5, the former world champion. Barbara Gorishi took a great victory in 2015, a great sprint victory up here. And then Kirsten Wild on the new circuit last year, taking the win. She's now moved across from High Tech Products over to the Silence team. Not quite had the volume of victories that we're used to seeing from Kirsten Wild this season, but she's still a force to be reckoned with. And in particular, watching out for Jolien de Hoorde in this Belgian champions jersey in the black, yellow and red, quite an iconic jersey sitting on the front.
Yes, and Jolien de Hoorde won the last stage of the women's tour, the OVO women's tour this year, on a kind of similar circuit. It was a bit of a bigger circuit with a few more what we call hot dog turns, but I think she's a big favourite. She's had a fantastic season so far. And
here we have Amelie Didrikson as well, our world road race champion. Watch out for this rainbow jersey, and she took that last year out sprinting Kirsten Wild, and she really popped up at the last minute, didn't she, in the Worlds, to take that jersey. Such a star, the Danish rider. She is very young as well. People haven't really talked about her so much. She hasn't actually raced that much. She did win Drenthe World Cup, and I think she actually could be a bit of a surprise today. Volstormers don't have perhaps their strongest squad because they have a lot of hill climbers who haven't taken part today, and I think the team are going to be working for her, and I think we're going to see something from her today. For the sprinters as well, it's probably
around about 18 Celsius, so it's going to feel cold. There's a lot of warm weather gear out there, but you factor in some of the big names here. Chloe Hoskins has come along, the Australian, with Bastianelli from Ale Cipollini. Canyon Schrammer here with Hannah Barnes and Barbara Garishi. We have
to have a mountaintop finish this year, which the climbers loved, but it means we also don't really know who's quite in form for the sprints at the moment.
So I was watching back this week the Giro Rosa and riders again coming out of that, sort of Corinne Rivera of Team Sunweb in the white jerseys with the two black stripes down the middle. Corinne really has stepped up this year, hasn't she? She's really taken some great victories, but as well in races where she's keen to sort of say, I'm a little bit more than just a sprinter. Exactly. Corinne Rivera's taken the move across. She's an American rider. Come over to a European team this year, Team Sunweb, and she's going to be a big favourite today. She's like a little pocket rocket. She's really tiny and benefits from an incredible lead out from Ellen van Dijk.
and that's how she won Trofeo Alfredo Bindo World Tour race, and also the first American to win the Women's Tour of Flanders, which was a huge win for her.
There's Kirsten Wild in the centre there in the green and black of Silence. There's Lotte Lepisto as well in that Finnish champions jersey in the blue and white to the big blue cross on the jersey. Lotte Lepisto, she's a great sprinter. And then here on the left, the Great Britain team colours, that's EJ Harris, a real up-and-coming British rider. She's an army captain and a doctor as well, EJ Harris. And great for her to show what a great season she's had as well, to be selected for the Great Britain cycling team here.
It's really nice to see a GB squad here. Gives riders an opportunity who are in smaller teams who wouldn't get the opportunity to race in a World Tour event. EJ Harris has done very well on the domestic scene, and it's great to see her on the start line.
We're getting very close to the start of the Prudential Ride London Classique this evening. You see some of the riders just leaning on the barriers as well, just to start with both their feet in. And it's great to be able to show a race right from the start. A lot of the time we can expect breakaways to start building from the start. And we've got some great onboard footage as well. This is Hannah Barnes' onboard camera. And this is really making a big difference now for viewers, being able to see what goes on, just how close these riders are to each other in this bunch.
Exactly, and I think the Prudential Ride London was one of the first races to do this. Also seen it in La Course when it's been on the Champs-Élysées, and I think we're going to get some great footage.
We're also on board with Kirsten Wild as well, so we'll see what that shot looks like come the finish, should Kirsten Wild manage to gap everyone in the sprint. There's Hannah Barnes in the centre in that black and with the yellow and pink colours of the Canyon SRAM team. Hannah Barnes as well, coming out of Giro Rosa with a stage win as well. And Canyon SRAM really, they give their riders a lot of opportunities. They don't always go into a race with a solid leader. They're quite content sometimes just to let someone jump up and take a victory.
That's right, and Hannah's been working really hard for the team in the last couple of years, and it was great to see her step up.
So 10 seconds, you can hear our announcer giving them to the start. So we are almost ready for the start of this evening's racing. And we're underway, 12 laps of 5.5 kilometres. Sharon, just take us through some of the tactics that we can expect to see tonight. It's a sort of longer criterium type of circuit. We've got a neutralised lap here on the rollout. A lot of the time when we see the start, the early breakaways trying to get established, that flurry of attacks that we get a lot of the time when the flag drops.
Yeah, last year we saw a very aggressive race from the start. I was actually racing, and it was a big shock for me because I hadn't done so much road racing. I'd been on the mountain bike. Very, very fast paced, and I think that kind of surprises a lot of people who are watching just really quite how quickly. I think we nearly averaged 43 kilometres per hour last year. I think the rain will make it a bit less quick perhaps, but women's racing is always really aggressive. The stages tend to be short, the races are short, as is this one, and that means it's from the gun. So we don't have this typical kind of pattern that you see with the men where there's an early break and break stays away and then they chase the break down. The women's races, people attacking the whole time, and I'm expecting we'll see that today.
We've got to highlight a couple of our domestic teams, the British teams. We've got Team WNT racing here this evening. We'll pick their colours out. They're sort of dark blue, light blue and dark blue colours. And they've got Katie Archibald in the team. And Katie Archibald, the last couple of years ago, when Barbara Gorishki won, she was the highest placed domestic rider in this race, and she's had a good season on the road, Olympic champion last year. Do you think Katie's got the firepower to outsprint some of these the biggest sprinters in the world?
I think Katie will definitely be up there. I put her in the top 10 today. Not sure she's really got the experience yet to go for a podium, but I could be proved wrong, and I'd love to be proved wrong. She's a fantastic rider, did really well at the national championships as well, second and third in the TT, so second in the road race, third in the TT, and she's really stepped up this year on the road.
In terms of riders such as Katie and some of the other British riders who are coming from the track, and you mentioned last year jumping in from mountain biking as well, and we see this a lot in women's professional cycling, don't we? The riders cross over a lot more between disciplines. How hard is it to jump in and come up against the best road riders in the world when you're mixing your disciplines.
That's the thing. Like Mariana Voss, for example, is world champion on the road, the track, and cyclocross, as is Pauline Van Prevost with a mountain bike as well. And the track riders, Eleanor Barker's taken more of a move here to race on the road this year. Danny King as well. And I think the track to the road is quite interchangeable, but I think some of the riders like Mariana Voss have found actually it is quite difficult as the standard is raising on the road and having to become more focused and really more specific. But of course they do complement each other, and I think some riders just like to have the variety and kind of mix it up a bit.
Yeah, I'll just pick out some of your other colours along the front. The blue, dark blue and red colours of Velo Concept. They're quite similar to Team WNT when we point them out. So we'll pick out a lot of your colours and various jerseys. Lotte Lepisto though, Sharon, as a rider, the Finnish national champion. We haven't seen many top riders come out of Finland. She's here for the Cervelo Bigla team, and again, she's had a really, she's always been there. She's always picked up some good victories, but she really is having a breakthrough season, Lotte Lepisto. She's having a breakthrough season, and I think that really started last year when she got third in the World Championships in Qatar, and doesn't really have, you know, the biggest team around her at a World Championship. So that was such a confidence boost for her, and it's fantastic to see her continue to do so well. She's, we can see her there on the right-hand side of the screen. I think, yeah, just on to the right of the car. She's wearing the white and blue cross because she's the Finnish champion, which is slightly different to the rest of the team in the Cervelo Bigla squad, which is blue, more blue. So if you're new to cycling, we have our national champions jerseys, and we have quite a few of them in this evening, and they really do celebrate the national champions colours. This is Lens World Quota, the rider here, and wearing number 36 is Winanda Spoor, so keep an eye out for them. They've got some good riders in there. Maria Giulia Confalonieri and Annalisa Cucinota is another fast finisher from Lens World Quota. They were on the podium last year with Nina Kessler, but she's moved over to the high-tech products team. They snatched her up when Kirsten Wild made a move, so it shows the high regard that this race is held in. You see what if you can get on the podium with the likes of Kirsten Wild, other teams see that you've got that talent, and they snap you up. Yes, and Nina Kessler, that was a really big win for her last year. She wasn't one of the favourites, and it was fantastic. I really like it when, you know, somebody who's not super well known gets on the podium. So great to see her move over to a different team. So you can see the riders just moving their way down past Big Ben. We have another national champion there, Christine Madera. She's wearing the yellow helmet for Boels Dolmans. She's the national champion of Luxembourg. Actually 27 times national champion in a variety of disciplines. We were just saying earlier, she's also a very, very strong cyclocross rider. Yeah, cyclocross, the winter discipline of cycling. Christine Majerus just has a little break at the end of the road season, switches back to the cyclocross, and it's going to take a strong rider to start taking that jersey away from her. It's like Lotte Lepisto, 7 times she's won that Finnish title, but she must be inspiring the next generation up in Finland as well to take that, try and steal that jersey away from her. Yeah, and Luxembourg actually has its own women's race, a 3-day race at Elsie Jacobs, which Christine Majerus won this year. So it's really great. I'm sure she's a very big, iconic woman for girls and boys to look up to. Yeah, it's Elsie Jacobs race in Luxembourg. I did that last year as director sportif with the team, and it's a really, really good race. I was really, really impressed. I'd never been to Luxembourg, and you can see why the likes of Christine Majerus and the Schleck brothers in the men's discipline are such talents, such great terrain. And that Elsie Jacobs race, one of the most brutal prologue time trials I think I've seen. Straight out the blocks, straight up a really steep climb, very, very technical as well. So it takes a big talent to carry off that race. Yeah, I think the year we did it, it was a team time trial, and I was dropped on that bit. The joys of racing with Emma Pooley. Definitely, the riders still on the neutralised lap. So this, just to explain this, so the riders, it's almost like a sighting lap, isn't it, the neutralised lap, just to let everyone settle in, and then as we get to back towards the line, the car will pull away and they'll pull in the red flag.
Yes, and this is not, it's a quite technical circuit, but not super technical. And remember, one year in the Giro we did have that, and I think it just shocked everybody because we couldn't believe quite how dangerous it was.
You'll see they pick out those that orange jersey near the front as well. That's the Bull Dolman's jersey. As you said, Amelie Deirdrickson is the rider in the rainbow jersey as world champion, but the team colours are that orange coloured jersey, fairly close to the front. And again, the strength in numbers in that team. It's of course the team of Lizzie Deignan.
Yes, and Nikki Harris, another British rider, also a cyclocross rider. She's also going to be racing here today. She's a very strong domestic rider on the road.
So Lizzie Deignan, of course, mentioned her, not here. They've got a good team as well. Amy Peters, that's just off the car for Bull Dolman's, the rider in the orange. She's she's the sort of rider that just seems to be able to pop up at the last minute if the plan doesn't quite fit, and be able to just jump up and snatch that victory.
Yeah, and she did that this year earlier at the OVO Women's Tour with a stage win. So she could also be a sort of unexpected surprise today, I think.
In terms of this point, as a team, on this sort of race, take us through the communication that might be going on at this point between the team.
I think it kind of varies between teams. So some teams, for example, Silence, will come with a very specific plan for Kirsten Wild, but there will be other teams, perhaps like Bols Dolmans, who haven't really got an out-and-out leader, and they'll be communicating through the race just about who's feeling better and who's got the legs, who wants to go for the sprint. And you know, they've got Amy Peters here, Amelia de Dirksen, who could and even Christian Madera. She was second at the OVO Women's Tour in the GC, so they've got 3 potential riders here for the bunch finish.
We're just seeing Canyon Schramm just move up on the outside. Keep an eye on those jerseys as we just go through Admiralty Arch here. But that Canyon Schramm team, former winner in Barbara Gorishki, and they're moving through towards the front already. And Canyon Schramm, for them, this is it with the firepower that they have in the team. They've got Hannah Barnes and Barbara Gorishki, both fast sprinters. Many options for Canyon Schramm here.
Lisa Brenner as well, the German rider, previous world champion on the time trial. She's also in that team. She's in really good shape. She's just come back from a win in the Lotto Thüringen Tour in Germany. So again, 3 options. Obviously home race for Hannah Barnes, so I think the team will be behind her. But yeah, they've also got different options today.
So 12 laps to go, we are off and racing, and you can see those fluorescent yellow and orange colours moving up towards the front of Ale Cipollini. Again, strong team in Ale Cipollini. So they've got Chloe Hosking in the team, very fast sprinter. Marta Bastianelli as well, who's wearing number 11 for Ale Cipollini. And Hosking, good performance in the Giro Rosa. Bastianelli took a very strong stage victory. So 2 options there for Ale Cipollini, and always a super aggressive team.
Yeah, Martina Bastianelli, also previous world champion, and she was also 5th at the World Champions last year. Chloe Hoskins was 7th at World Champs last year, which was on a flat race. So that's why I've been looking at that race for an indication of today's race. Of course, it was in Qatar.
So a little bit hotter than today.
Just a little bit. What's really nice is you can also see these turquoise helmets very clearly. That's Drop Cycling team, and that's the other British team with WNT and of course Wiggle High Five that are racing today, in addition to the GB national squad.
So if you've caught up with the Tour series that was on in May this year, you will see the Drops team. They've got those multicoloured stripes on those black jerseys, those turquoise helmets. As Sharon said, they're easy to pick out. And the famous Barnes sisters, Alice and Hannah, and Alice Barnes comes into this race, and she, as a domestic rider, we've got to talk about her. She's had a stage victory in the Beanie Women's Tour as well, where she out-sprinted Mariana Voss to take the victory.
Yeah, incredible. They were in a break together, and I think everyone obviously put their money on Mariana Voss. And Alice Barnes, young rider, incredible talent. She's finished 2nd at the National Championships twice now, once to her sister and once to Lizzie Dynan. Does have a mountain bike background, but definitely taken the shift to the road and has had a phenomenal breakout season this year. Her and Hannah Barnes obviously fought for the best British rider at the OVO Women's Tour, and it was really great to see them kind of take turns in the best British rider jersey.
So Christine Majerus on the front for Bull Dolmans. She's got the orange helmet. She's got a gilet on here, a rain jacket, but she's turning up the pressure on the front. So do you think some of the bigger teams as well maybe might want to go out really hard here and try and thin this bunch down and maybe just take the pressure off and make it just a little bit, maybe for them, a little bit safer in effect?
Yeah, we often see this when the weather's bad. Teams will want to make it really hard to get rid of perhaps some of the less good riders in the bunch. We also saw Bulls Dolmans take on the last stage of the OVO Women's Tour, and they were very, very aggressive. And if watchers remember back to that, they formed a small break, literally initially straight from the gun. So this could be another tactic today.
And for some of the riders as well, especially on such a technical circuit, you just sit back sometimes, don't you, when the big guns put the hammer down on the front, in and out of these corners. If you're on the back, it can be a pretty brutal start, can't it?
Yeah, sometimes people don't really realise, but if you're at the back, it's actually a lot harder than it is when you're at the front. If you're at the back, you get this kind of yo-yo effect, so you have having to put down more power every time you go around a corner to catch back on. And after a while, that just really, really deadens the legs. Especially
over this length of time. So the Lotta Lepisto, we've mentioned her quite a lot. That's Finnish champions jersey straight in the centre. Those blue colours with the fluorescent yellow signs on the jersey, that's Orica Scott that are coming through. EJ Harris in the red, white and blue of the Great Britain cycling team, just moving up on the outside. And if you have a look on the right there, that's the Sunweb team in the white jerseys with the two black stripes down. So if you watched the Tour de France this year, you would have seen just the men's team in action in that as well. And they've got a double program, just like the Orica Scott team. And it is good to see, isn't it, some of the bigger teams, the World Tour teams, having a men's and women's program.
It's great, and I was fortunate enough to have the opportunity to ride on a couple of teams that did that, and we really benefited from the mix with the men, particularly at training camps. And when I rode with UHC Pro Cycling, we actually had some of the men came and talked us through some of the time trials and the circuit races that they'd done.
Just pick out another jersey for you there on the left. The black is the Wiggle High Five team, just behind Emilia Farlien, who's on the front, and behind her, Jolien de Hoore, the Belgian national champion. And there's quite a lot of colours here. The high-tech team just on the right there, they're now in dark blue and light blue as well. So quite a few teams here that have got quite similar colours.
Yeah, often you can look to the helmet, but you'll notice there the Ale Cipollini team. Chloe Hoskins is wearing a very orange fluoro helmet, which is much more aero than one of her teammates.
So riders already starting to get a little bit distanced off the back of the race here. Kim de Bat. So you see this hot dog turn there, this 180-degree bend. So the riders at the back, you just mentioned the yo-yo effect here, Sharon. Everyone coming to a halt, and then by the time you come out of that corner, those front riders are already well back up to speed. You can see just how long this bunch is becoming now.
Much, much better to be at the front when you go around the hot dog circuit. Some of the riders at the back will even get to the point they have to take their foot out. I remember that from last year. So yeah, you need to be sort of in the top 10, 15 going around that corner, and it's much, much easier.
So the first attack, they're just keeping the pressure on here, and it's the Velo Concept team colours that are through to the front. Claudia Costa on the front for Velo Concept, another new team this year, and Trixie Worak there in your shot from Canyon SRAM. Trixie Worak, a real legend, we could call her, of women's pro cycling.
She is. I think she's one of the most experienced riders in the bunch. She actually loves racing in the rain as well, so I expect we'll see her on the front quite a bit.
And made an amazing recovery, didn't she, from a crash last year, Trixie Worak, where she lost one of her kidneys.
She lost one of her kidneys and still made it to the Olympic Games, which was phenomenal.
So real tough cookie is Trixie Worrack. So lining it out as we hit here, 250 meters to go to the end of lap 1.
Ashley Moorman-Passio for Bigler. We talked about Lotte Lepisto wearing a slightly different jersey, so this is the normal Bigler kit. She's a South African rider and much prefers climbs to the flat races, but expect her to be very aggressive today in support of Lotte Lepisto.
So just a little flick of the elbow, just to explain that. You'll see riders on the front. It's the universal symbol for I've had enough, isn't it? You just flick your elbow and the rider behind you knows that it's their turn to come through.
That's right, but no one wants to take a turn from Ashley at the moment.
So she puts in a turn on the front now. The attacks come just as the bunch just swarms around. Trixie Worrack comes back through to the front. You see the German colours, the German flag on the cuffs of her jersey, former national champion. And the riders just, you could hear a lot of riders just throwing the anchors on, for want of a better word there, to go through that corner. But quite a few riders here already being dropped off the back. This technical circuit, the heavy rain. And you just have to adjust everything coming into a circuit such as this. You have to change the tyre pressures and everything like that, don't you? Sometimes it can happen right before the start.
Yeah, a lot of the riders will choose to have lower tyre pressures in the rain just to reduce that risk of slipping.
You can just see there's the WNT colours, Eileen Rowe there. So that's they've got a kind of checkerboard pattern on their jerseys as they line up through this corner. Mike Kroger just moving up as well. Mike Kroger from Canyon SRAM in those colours. Very strong rider, Mike Kroger, and they're going to need her come this finish. She's a great lead-out rider, isn't she, the German?
Great lead-out rider, and you can see how tall she is. She's a very big unit, so she's fantastic to be sitting behind. Former German national champion, very young rider, and very, very talented.
So the attacks, the pace has been high. Now the attacks come. Can anyone start to form a breakaway on the second lap here? Everyone's just looking around at the moment. No one wanting to quite take up the chase.
Yeah, it's a Velo concept rider. They don't really have an out-and-out sprinter, so I'm expecting them to try and force a break today.
So around looking good here, starting to get a bit of a gap. So can this one start to stick? Just taking a big look back over the shoulder just to see where that chasing group are. At the moment, it's Team Tibco that have come through to the front, the American team that are starting to do a bit of the chasing.
It's fantastic to see Team Tibco coming over from the US. They primarily race in the States, but they also took part in La Course, and Lauren Stevens, who's also racing here today, was one of the top riders who made it in the top 20 for the handicap TT event. Claudia
Costa just looks back over her shoulder, so we saw her up to the front on the opening lap. So definitely an aggressive rider looking to try and get something established here, but that catch is made in an interesting chase there, not getting across, just pulling it all back together.
Yeah, that's the thing with this race. No one really wants a break to form because there's a lot of big teams who have sprinters, so they want it to come to a sprint. And pace is so high because of the circuit and the nature of the race. So I think we will see a bunch sprint today.
We also have our intermediate sprints competition, and they come at the end of lap 3, 6 and 9, and there's a lot of prize money up there for that intermediate sprints competition.
Yep. The prize money is massive for the sprint, so 1,000 euros if you can get across the line first. Also points, so the points are added up after the 3 sprints, and then the winner of the overall competition also wins 3,000 euros. So that's definitely worth going for.
In terms of the prize purse here, as we said, this is one thing that this event and the organisers of this event want to do is the equal prize money between the men's race tomorrow and the women's race here this evening. It's really important, isn't it, for the growth of women's cycling to have that equal prize money across different races.
It's very, very important, and it's an incredible amount. So 25,000 euros for the win, 10,000 for the best team, And this is massive. When you consider Anna van der Breggen from Boels-Dolman's got, I think it was just over 1,000 euros, 1,300 euros for winning the 10-day tour of the Giro Rosa, which is the only Grand Tour left for women. So 25,000 for this this iconic race in London, and setting an example for other races. And I think that's what the Women's Tour, the OVO Women's Tour, is also doing. And Great Britain are really leading the way in this. And it's just so fantastic to see, and really, really important for the women to feel like they are proper athletes and very, very well deserved of that kind of prize money.
In terms of teams, I mean, we're growing year-on-year teams, and we used to see in the past, we'd have this kind of almost boom and bust in women's cycling, didn't we, where the year after the Olympics, all the teams would disappear until the year before the next Olympics, and then they would all come back. And it really seems the London effect since 2012, we've started to see more teams, bigger teams, you know, those double programs with, such as Orica Sot and Sunweb and those sort of things. But we are starting to see this growth in women's cycling. Where do we need to go? Where do we go from here in terms of attracting more sponsors?
Well, obviously a lot of it does come down to TV coverage, which is why it is fantastic to have this opportunity to show the whole of the women's race here. La Course also was shown on TV around the world. That's really important for the sponsors, obviously, and just to raise the profile of women's cycling. But as you said, I've noticed a big difference since I was racing in the growth of the teams and the professionalism of them. And it's fantastic to see riders like Corinne Rivera sign a 3-year contract for Sunweb. This is unheard of previously when I was racing. Generally, you just got contract, and as you said, teams often would fold at the end of the year. I think I was on 3 teams which folded. So just to have that stability and really be able to focus on your training and your racing rather than have to worry about when your next contract is going to be signed.
Because what we're seeing as well, in the past as well, we had all of that talent kind of within 1 or 2 teams, and we had the Rabobank team, and they had pretty much most of the huge talent. There was a couple of teams, and now we're seeing the talent start to be spread across all of the teams, which also has that kind of trickle-down effect to the rest of the riders in that team, doesn't it?
Yeah, that's what I found this year has been so much more interesting. It's made the racing much more exciting. The initial World Tour events, we actually had a different winner in every single event. And when I first started racing, I was on Team Cervelo, which had nearly all of the strongest riders, which meant that when we went to one race, you could only have a team of 6 riders, and some of the best riders in the world were having to sit at home. So fantastic to see the different spread now, and it's making the racing much more exciting and much more unpredictable about who's going to win.
So this is the sprint lap. So on lap 3, as we said, we have the intermediate sprint at the end of this lap, and we're just seeing the likes of EJ Harris just starting to move up in the Great Britain jersey. Watch out for EJ. She was the winner of the Iceberg Sprints competition in the Tour Series. She's starting to kind of target these sort of intermediate sprints competitions, as well as wanting to take those big victories as well.
Yeah, and that would be great to see this sprint. On the front at the moment, we have Lucinda Brandt. She's a Dutch rider, former Dutch national champion, incredible rider, winner at the Giro Rosa this year, and has also been very important in Corinne Rivera's victories this year, and expect her to be very aggressive. I think she finished 4th at this event last year.
She's a real talent. Again, another rider that's come out of that Giro Rosa was on a real attacking form in that race, and can really she's a bit of a queen of the solo breaks, as we saw in action in the OVO Women's Tour, going off the front on her own.
Yeah, very, very strong rider, and she's another rider that really enjoys racing in the rain. Enjoys very technical, fast circuits, and doesn't seem to have any fear. Raced with Lucinda Brandt on a team called Drinks, the Dutch team, so I know her pretty well.
I was over in Switzerland a year or so ago for the EcoZ Cross Tour, and Lucinda came down and did that, and it had this massive sweeping descent, and it was chucking it down with rain, and everyone was sliding down, and she said it was the first time that it pushed her to the limit, where she just couldn't handle this descent, which is so unusual for Lucinda.
Oh, we've got a bike change here for I think that's a Team High Tech. Yep, Susanne Anderson. So what happens here if there's an issue with the bike? Obviously, there's not time to actually fix a bike, so they just have a bike on the back and they can quickly change it, but she's going to have quite a lot of work to get back to that bunch now.
Yeah, not a great time to puncture on a sprint lap. Just seeing now, moving up towards the front, Wiggle High Five jerseys, WNT trying to move themselves through towards the front as well. We haven't seen any sign yet of Katie Archibald, but you got your Wiggle High Five riders here. Just gives you a good opportunity to have a look at them. Annette Edmondson, and they're now leading this one out. So the whole of the Wiggle High Five team getting up towards the front. They've got, as we said, Giorgia Bronzini, former winner of this race, Jolien de Hoora there in second wheel. And as you said, Sharon, the prize purse even for the intermediate sprints competition makes this so highly sought after.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether Jolien de Hoora goes for this sprint. So I think she's going to be wanting the big win, the overall win, and it's quite hard for riders to go for the intermediate sprint and expect to get the overall win. So I would expect that they'll be actually leading out for one of the other riders. Nettie Edmondson's in really, really good shape at the moment. She's just come from doing pretty well at the race in the BENE race, and she's also another rider that's taken more of a move to the focus on the track after racing on the road after focusing on the track.
So leading out, Amelia Farlin from Wiggle High Five, the former Swedish national champion, back with Wiggle High Five this year. Just on your left there, just moving up. Here come Team Sunweb. On the right there, that's the WN3 team with the green splodges, for want of a better word, on those black helmets, those black jerseys. That's the team of Mariana Voss.
Yeah, that's a new team that Mariana Voss formed this year. And Mariana Voss is back from a broken collarbone, but she won the BENE Tour, and I think she should be doing well here today. She should.
She won a criterium the other evening as well, one of the post-tour criteriums. So Mariana always bounces back very quickly from injury.
And we have Ellen van Dijk here. She's wearing the white helmet with the black and white jersey. She's from Team Sunweb. She's a rider, I said, who's a phenomenal lead-out rider for Corinne Rivera. So it'll be interesting to see again what this team do for the intermediate sprints.
So lining up now towards our first intermediate sprint of the evening here in the Prudential Ride London Classique. The third lap of 12. Ellen van Dijk here, just leading out for Team Sunweb. Amy Peters just to her left there in the orange of Bull Dolmans.
Yeah, to the right, just behind Ellen van Dijk there, that's Leah Kirchmann. So she's a very, very good sprinter as well. And I think they might be going either for her or Lucinda Brandt for this intermediate sprint.
Lucinda there, just the third rider in line. I seem to remember her battling it out. And here comes Katie Archibald in that red helmet with the white shoes, the dark blue, light blue, the white shoulders of Katie Archibald. Again, another rider, the Olympic champion in the team pursuit, the world track champion as well, Katie Archibald. Does very well in the intermediate sprint competitions. Team Sunweb, though, get good launch pad out of that corner, and the three riders now taking off for Team Sunweb, trying to line up this sprint.
Yeah, that was a really good example there of why you need to be at the front when you go around that hot dog. You could see those riders at the back were practically at a standstill, whereas these three Sunweb riders are now really, really putting the throttle down on the front.
So it looks like they got Leah Kirchmann, the Canadian, in third wheel here. Very fast sprinter as well. So a lot of the time out on the road, there's a lot of discussion that goes on between the riders. Most teams will go into the race with a plan of action, who's going to be a protected rider, but that can change. The plan has always got to be fluid within the race. It's always easy to sit there before and say, this is the plan, this is what we're going to do. But out on the road, if the legs aren't quite feeling how you thought they were going to feel going into the race, the riders have to have that ability and have that knowledge to be able to change the plan and say, right, my legs aren't feeling good, we're going to work for you instead.
That's right. And you can really see now Lucinda Brandt's putting the hammer down.
Really winding up for this
got such a good gap there.
They've gapped everyone. Katie Archibald of Team WNT trying to close the gap. Here goes Archibald in her trademark seated sprint. Katie Archibald comes through and takes a look back over her shoulder. Look at the gap there in that sprint from Katie Archibald. Can Kirschman get back to her before the line? Archibald, she went for a long one there.
She did. Wow, it looked like she was either tiring or just kind of looking back, but that's €1,000 for Katie Archibald and her team.
So Katie Archibald, Team WNT, takes that from Leah Kirschman. Kirschman is going to keep on, press on now with this move. This is a good time. You can see Katie Archibald really, the shoulders are dropping there, really breathing hard. Look at how far back she came in this sprint.
Wow, that was a phenomenal effort from Katie there. And you can see Leah Kirschman was keeping the hammer down there, because often after an intermediate sprint, it's an opportune time to go for a break because everybody's quite tired from the sprint. And it'll be interesting to see once we get back if there's a gap.
Katie Archibald looking back there all the way to the line, almost thinking, I think I might have gone a little bit too soon here in this sprint. I should have maybe saved that a little bit for the end, but a win nonetheless.
And it looks like we do have Leah Kirschman alone now.
And here's Lydia Boylan, the Irish national champion, just battling hard to try and get back in to the peloton. But one lone leader, as Sharon said, a great time to attack straight after a sprint. Everyone will just be trying to get their breath back, just trying to recover after not only the sprint, but the effort that came into leading out that sprint, because it's been a pretty frenetic pace right from the off here.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see what the average speed is so far, but we can definitely see how high the pace is. Now we've got a hairpin here, and that's where Leah Kirschman's on her own, so much more of an advantage there.
So Kirschman out of that corner, and when you're on your own here, as you say, you can just take these corners a lot quicker. You can choose your line, can't you? You're not having to worry about anyone else around you or anyone in front of you.
Yeah, it's right. Much easier for the technical aspect to be on your own, but on a course like this, it's very difficult to stay out alone, because the pace is always high from the pack with everybody just moving to the front. So I don't think this will last too long.
Kirschman here just focusing on her effort. It's almost like a little testing attack here from Leah Kirschman. It's almost just prodding the rest of the riders just to see if she can make something stick.
Yeah, there is quite a gap there. You can see also, just in front of her, though, some riders that have been very much dropped and are nearly going to be lapped by the course, which means those riders will be pulled off.
It's one of those things that happens in a race such as this, and this is the conditions for these riders. There's confirmation of your sprint. So Katie Archibald takes the 5 points ahead of Leah Kirschman. Ellen van Dijk staying up there in third, and Emily Moberg managing to close the gap there and to take fourth. And Amelia Farlene of Wiggle High Five sweeps up that 1 point. So still all to play for in the sprints competition. Kirschman pressing on here for Team Sunweb, and Team Sunweb as well, watching out for these colours. They've got another rider that's really coming back from a bad accident earlier on in the season. It's great to see Molly Weaver, the British rider, back and racing in this race as well. Molly had quite a serious crash, and again, she's managed to get back a lot quicker than a lot of people thought she might.
Yeah, Molly Weaver had a very bad crash in Girona in training and broke a lot of ribs and was in hospital for a long time. So it's fantastic to see her be able to make the home race. I know she was super disappointed to miss the women's tour, the OVO women's tour, and I did speak to her at Nationals, and she was just glad to be racing a bike. So it's great that she's had the opportunity to race here today. For those viewers that are tuning in that are new to cycling and have just seen Leah Kirschman talking into her jersey, just explain the communication that goes on between the riders and the managers as well. This is quite a new thing the last couple of years, and an introduction as part of the World Women's Tour to have race radios. So each of the riders are connected to each other and to the race car, so they can communicate with the radio between each other. That's a good communication too. You just see Confalonieri there just changing the wheel, and sometimes that happens. It looks like the wheel rim might actually be too thick for the bike that she's trying to put it in. Yeah, and she's going to struggle there. They were taking quite a lot of time over that, so for her to get back into this peloton when the pace is as high as it is, I think she's going to have a bit of difficulty. As well, so it's a shame for Confalonieri, because
She's wearing the number 31 for Lensworld Quota this evening, so one of their protected riders, really. Normally when you go into a race, that sort of team leader almost gets the honour of the number 1 on their back.
Yep, and she's a good sprinter, so she'll be disappointed with that today. Back on the front, we have Ashley Moorman-Passio from Cervelo Bigler in the red helmet and the white colours and the very distinctive blue shoes there.
And just see Eileen Rowe moving up as well in that red helmet for Team WNT, the domestic team. Again, stepping up to UCI professional level this year, our Team WNT. And along with Drop Cycling, really are pushing forward the growth of the professional scene here in the UK.
Yeah, Eileen Rowe, of course, she's won the circuit race championships previously in the UK. She's from Scotland, and she'll be enjoying this kind of race today.
So WM3 come through towards the front, and our former Israeli national champion Rotem Gafanovitz comes through to the front. And again, we're seeing with the Israel Cycling Academy in the men's side, it's great to see so many nations coming through.
Yeah, I rode for Lotto one year, and we had an Israeli rider on the team then, and actually the team went over for a training camp, and really great riding in Israel.
So we see the Swedish national champion now, Sarah Penton, comes through. Again, they've got a great history in world cycling, have the Swedes with the now retired Emma Johansson.
Yes, and Emma Johansson's husband, Martin, he's actually the director sportif for Wiggle High Five here today.
So lots of connections, interconnected, all the teams and riders, but still nothing managing to stick here brakes wise. It's still Canyon SRAM that are well to the front. And in terms of the tactics tonight, Hannah Barnes, she would love a victory here, wouldn't she? Hannah Barnes, the former British national road race champion. And we were talking a little bit earlier about a rider that can just pop up and take a victory. And when she took her win in the Giro Rosa recently, her post-race interview, she was leading out Barbara Gorishki. Barbara has just said to her, coming into the final kilometre, go yourself, and Hannah popped up and managed to take the victory. And that's such a skill, isn't it, as a rider?
Yeah, Hannah's an extremely talented rider, very young rider, but she actually races really well under pressure. I raced with Hannah when I was on United Healthcare, and it was fantastic when we came to the inaugural women's tour. I think our race director wasn't really sure what to expect, and Hannah, of course, was on the podium there in one of the stages, and it's just fantastic to see her doing so well. She was also another rider that's come back from a pretty bad crash where she broke her foot, and it's taken her a long time to get back, but she was really patient and she did everything right, and now she's really paying dividends for that.
It was a really strange crash as well, I think, that she said when she broke that bone in her foot, and it's a weird one, isn't it, when you break one of those little bones. It's sometimes you think, oh, I can come back from this really quickly, but it took her a long time. We got another puncture here, and the B-pink colours, and trying to get as speedy wheel changes as possible out there on the road.
Yeah, again, going to be quite tricky to get back on. The riders are having to go to a neutral service here to get the wheel changes. So this is Allison Jackson, she's a Canadian rider. I think the wet conditions, it's another reason why we're seeing so many punches today.
You just get all the grit washing into the road, and it's not like, even though tyres choice and tyre pressure, we're not quite blessed in cycling yet, aren't we, like motor racing, where we have dry tyres and wet tyres.
No, and it is it's always difficult, and you can't predict what's going to happen either. Obviously, these roads are used for commuting quite a lot as well, so there'll be glass and stuff on the road.
So we're just seeing Cervelo Bigler back up towards the front. Ashley Moorman-Passio and Lotta Lepisto keeping themselves well to the fore here. And as you said, Sharon, it's a lot easier sometimes to be up near the front, control the pace, make sure no one gets away, but also avoid that sort of lasso effect that you're having down the back of the group.
Yeah, it's quite interesting. Some of the riders, they take the approach differently. So, for example, Lotta Lepisto, she's one of the sprinters I expect that we'll see at the finish. She really likes to ride right at the front. But you'll notice we haven't seen Corinne Rivera, we haven't seen Kirsten Wild, and they're also some of our favourites for today. And the riders take it differently. Kirsten Wild really hides well in the bunch, and she's saving all her energy for the finish.
You've got to be super efficient as a pro, haven't you? And someone of Kirsten Wild's experience, it's one of those things coming into a finish. I've seen her win over the years, winning multiple stages in Tour of Qatar, which is a race that I've done for many, many years, and you'll be coming into the finish and there'll be absolutely no sign of Kirsten all day, and even on the run-in, and then all of a sudden she just appears out of nowhere.
Yeah, such a phenomenal rider, very, very experienced, also rides on the track, and we won't see her, I don't think, until those last 2 kilometres.
So the South African rider here, Ashley Moolman-Pasio, and just moving up as well, FDJ Akitan in the red, white and blue, the French team. And they've got a really talented team here as well. Again, Roxane Fournier is a very fast finisher, and you can see the Lenswell quota riders here really having a bad night. Maria Giulia Confalonieri here is not having any kind of luck here.
She's not having the best day. And of course that happens. Someday it's just not your day.
It is, and you can see pressure on, but still nothing managing to stick here in the Prudential Ride London Classique. It's just this constant ebb and flow here in the peloton. No one, it's just constant teams just moving themselves up towards the front. But again, we've had, I had it on the way in today. I think it's been absolutely phenomenal, and the crowds are still great here, even though it's a little bit damp. But we saw on the opening of our program, didn't we, the tens of thousands of people out here on bikes, just riding around, the families, and hopefully a lot of them have stayed around to watch this and will be inspired by the women racing. But the growth of our sport in this country, we've both been around the sport here in this country for a little while now. It gives you a massive sense of pride, doesn't it? And especially you as a pro rider, having been a big part of what's made it happen.
It does, it's incredible. And what for me was really interesting was when I came to commentate for the OVO Women's Tour, came down to London and I rode in the Surrey Hills. I used to work in London about 15 years ago, and I would ride in the Surrey Hills, and I'd be lucky, you know, maybe see 10 riders or so. And when I went to the Surrey Hills a few months ago on a weekend, it was phenomenal how many people on their bikes. And I think that's a real legacy of the Olympic Games, and of obviously Chris Froome and Bradley Wiggins' success in the Tour de France, and Lizzie Dynan's medal in London. And it's fantastic to see how much more popular cycling has become.
There's a lot of talk at the moment, though, isn't there? We just had La Course, which we said finished on the top of a mountain for the first time. You mentioned, we've talked about Giro Rosa, which is the women's Giro d'Italia. Do you think, as a sport, women's cycling needs its own Tour de France, or do you think with the Giro Rosa, with the OVO Women's Tour, and the growth of the races that we've already got, do you think that they can build into our Grand Tours and have that kind of prestige and kudos?
I think for the women, I don't think it has to be an either or, and I think what the OVO Women's Tour has proved, that we can have standalone events which are extremely popular. But you also look at the Women's Tour of Flanders, which it runs alongside the men's event, and it's also one of the most prestigious races to win. So I think it's nice if we can try and get a bit of both. Obviously, in the past there was a Women's Tour de France, so in some respects we've taken a step backwards. But I think the races in the UK have shown that women's racing can be very exciting, and standalone events can be very, very popular.
Back towards the front, you see that Swedish champions jersey very much to the front. Christine Majerus there, and now in second wheel here in that red, white and light blue jersey, the champion of Luxembourg, keeping herself well to front. Started to see Chloe Hosking moving up as well, the fast Aussie sprinter from LA Cipollini, and just keeping herself well to the front here. So starting as this race goes on as well, our sprinters just keeping themselves up towards the front.
Yeah, Chloe Hosking also, like Lotte Lepisto, tends to like to be quite near the front, and I expect that we'll see her do well today. some of the sprinters will choose to be a bit closer to the front today because of the rain and the weather. There could be crashes, and you don't want to be stuck behind a crash because then you have to use a lot of energy to get back to the peloton.
My old coach always told me that in terms of a race such as this, where you've got those hot dog turns and you're sprinting in and out of the corners, you only have so much power, don't you? And we always talk in cycling in terms of power, and we look at, my coach always said, your power that you have in the tank as we come into the next sprint lap. He said your power is like a book of matches, and every effort that you make, you strike a match and throw it away. And that's why when we're talking about riders such as Kirsten Bilder, who we haven't seen, she's just being efficient, not burning matches, not burning power, and just keeping everything under control.
Yes, and what some riders will do in training, they'll use some races for training and just try to keep their heart rate down, or to finish the race with expending the least power possible. Obviously, when you train, you want to put the effort out, and you sort of measure the power that you've put out. But as you say, the more rested you can be as you come to the finish line, that's when you can really utilise the power that you've got left.
So moving through now for the next sprint lap, as Katie Archibald took the previous one, so she will be looking to try and get up there as we go past Buckingham Palace. And you do wonder if the Queen's looking out, watching from a great vantage point that she's got here in Buckingham Palace.
I think I've heard she's away, unfortunately, so she's missing one of the biggest races in the year. And the rain's really falling down, but I think I'm so proud to be British sometimes, because it's the same at the OVO Women's Tour. Despite how much pouring rain there are still spectators out on the road, and it's so nice to see, and really gives the riders a lift when they can hear all their names being cheered as they ride past.
It's because of the way sport is now, and cycling is the biggest free sporting spectacle in the world. It's not like other events where you have to buy a ticket and you have to be able to get in. With cycling, we bring the show, we bring the razzmatazz there, where you can just walk down, pitch up, watch the race go by. And riders in other countries, they're not used to the noise, are they? They're not used to the crowds. The British riders are almost being spoilt in a way, aren't they? They're getting so used to that level of noise that you get out on the road.
Yeah, it's interesting. I actually spoke to Ashley Moorman-Passio after the Women's Tour one year, and she said that was one thing that she actually found quite difficult, because she couldn't really concentrate because there were so many riders at the so many spectators really at the side of the road shouting and screaming, and you really only get that at World Championship events. I remember the first one I did in Italy with the cowbells and people like banging on the side. So it's fantastic for the riders to get this just during the season rather than just at a World Championship.
Definitely. So they're lining up for the next sprint lap. We're just seeing Katie Archibald starting to move herself back up towards the front in that red helmet for Team WNT. And for Katie, over the next few years, she still wants to stick with the track program, but gradually I think she'll find her feet in the road side as well, and developing as a sprinter, because she's still very, very young, Katie Archibald. She's only 23.
Yes, I was just going to say that. It feels like she's been around for a long time, but she's such an amazing talent, and yeah, I definitely think we'll be seeing more of her on the road.
So through the trees for the riders, a lot of moving around. Wiggle high five on the left there. Giorgia Bronzini just coming up. You see the former world champion. You have the rainbow bands around the cuffs of your jersey, and it's the same as a national champion, isn't it? Of which you have been national road champion. You have that prestige of carrying those colours on your jersey for the rest of your career.
Yeah, that's really special to have those bands on the jersey. Giorgina Bronzini, 2 times world champion, so it's great for her and great for us to have her here. And of course we have Amelia de Dirksen from Boels Dolmans, who's another world champion, current world champion.
So the colours now moving up on the left there. Team Tibco from Silicon Valley Bank, so they're moving up there as well, Team Tibco.
Yeah, that's Lauren Stevens there. She's the rider who I said did well at the course last week, of course. I'm
just seeing as well in the turquoise helmet, Lucy Shaw from Drops starting to come up as well. And Lucy Shaw, she's had a victory in London this year as well. She took the Rafa London Nocturne as well.
Yeah, it was a really big win for Lucy. She bases herself in Girona, and so she won't be enjoying this weather so much after getting used to the sunshine.
You're seeing now in the second wheel here, Team Sunweb starting to make their way back up towards the front. This lead out for this next sprint, and the pace relentless from the start here in the Ride London Classique this evening. Just seeing on the left now, Orica Scott, those colours start to move up. Lucy Shaw latches on to the wheel as they come through. So very measured, very controlled here. The pace so high, just no one managing to get away.
No, and you see Ellen van Dijk back on the front. If you remember on the last sprint lap, that's her position that she was. And Leah Kirchmann, also for Sunweb in the white helmet, she's there on Ellen van Dijk's shoulder.
The two Scots, Eileen Rowe and Katie Archibald, coming up. Eileen Rowe looked like she was going to lead out Katie Archibald. They did a great job in the Tour Series and the Town Centre criteriums this year, leading each other out. Eileen Rowe comes up, just has a word there with Katie Archibald. A lot of communication going on between the riders, and she'll say, Katie, that Eileen's got to get this pace really, really high as she just drops in behind Mieke Kroger.
Yeah, I think we've got the two biggest riders there, Ellen van Dijk and Mieke Kroger, so tall, and they're both up the front for their teams respectively.
So it's the Swedish national champion of Sara Penton that leads out of that corner for Team Velo Concept. And she took a good placing in the time trial as well, up in the Swedish nationals, behind another Olympic medalist switching over from triathlon for the time trial, and Lisa Norden, who was second in the Olympic Games triathlon down here.
Yeah, we've got Nettie Edmondson there, wiggle high five. See, a lot of the riders have taken their glasses off because the rain really is pouring down now.
Katie Archibald's just tucked her sunglasses into the front of her skin suit. Lucinda Brandt moves up, then Ellen van Dijk and Leah Kirchmann. Christine Majerus in that Luxembourg national champions jersey now lines up for these corners. So it's all about these lead outs for these intermediate sprints, but you can just see the spray coming off the road now from the rain.
Yeah, Lucinda Brandt, we mentioned before that she has no fear in the rain, and she's taking these corners with a lot of speed. Same three riders in front as we had for the last sprint lap.
And Lucinda Brandt, you can see again just gapping everyone else as she leads out this sprint. Look at the effort now on the face of Lucinda Brandt as she tries to lead out this sprint. Ellen van Dijk looking cool, calm and collected in second wheel, with Leah Kirchmann just behind her. Ellen van Dijk now opens up the lead out for the intermediate sprint. Christine Majerus just comes up alongside Leah Kirchmann. Whereas Katie Archibald, she moves up here in about fourth, but it's going to be between Kirchmann and Majerus. Kirchmann throws her bike at the line, so a good battle between Leah Kirchmann and Christine Majerus for that sprint. And again, it's a good opportunity here to try and springboard yourself to a bit of a gap.
It is, but I think they created so much of a gap in front of the peloton that there's nobody who can actually come around them. Really interesting here to see Sunweb take so much effort for these intermediate sprints, though, because I would have thought they would be saving something for Corinne Rivera near the finish, but they're using three riders now for these intermediate sprints, which is going to take a lot out of them by the time it comes around to the finish.
As we move through the race, Corinne Rivera, quite a gifted rider in terms of surfing other people's lead outs. She's a good, what we might call, freelance sprinter. She doesn't need that massive lead out sometimes, does she, that we see a lot in other races. She can surf off everybody else, and if Kirsten Wield's team are going to try and lead out for her, good tactic with Corinne Rivera, just make sure she's in the right place on the right wheel to go for that final sprint. Yeah,
that's very true, and she's had a lot of experience of that, racing domestically in the US and when she's come over to Europe. But she has benefited a lot from Ellen van Dijk in the big races like the Tour of Flanders and Trofeo Alfredo Binda. So it'll be interesting to see. But obviously this race is quite a bit shorter than some of the Women's World Tour events that the girls are used to racing. And so actually, you know, if they're racing an hour and a half today, normally they're racing 3 hours. So perhaps Ellen van Dijk, very, very strong rider, and Lucinda Brandt, they have the legs to do both.
Out of the corner, Amy Peters, little attack now from her. Mieke Kroger just latches on with Amelia Farlene here in third wheel. So Amy Peters deciding now for Bull Dolmans that they really need to try and change the whole tactics in this race.
Yeah, Bull Dolmans often very, very aggressive in the races, and often quite, you know, what they do in the race can dictate how the race pans out. I don't think they have their strongest team here today, and they only have 5 riders, but they're always aggressive.
They are indeed. It was a teammate that moved up onto her wheel, but now Canyon Schramm it is that's on the front to try and keep this pressure really high as we move through to the closing stages of the Ride London Classique here, sponsored by Prudential. So Amy Peters on the front.
Yeah, you can see how high the pace is. When we get a line like this, that's when you can see the pace is really, really high. When you see all the riders across the road in like a big bunch, then that's when you know the pace is slowed, as it's doing now.
No one wanting to take this one up. So any of the teams now, as you go through the back end of this race, the teams that haven't got one of those big sprinters in this race, this is when they've really got to just put everything out there on the road, isn't it? If you haven't got someone who you think can outpower Kirsten Wild in this this finishing sprint, you've got to try something even in the closing stages. Maybe try and pull a cheeky one in the last couple of kilometres.
Yeah, I think we'll be seeing a lot more aggression now, a lot more attacks as people attempt that when they don't have a key sprinter. Nice to see a GB rider on the front there. That could be EJ Harris.
There's confirmation of your sprinter. Christine Majerus takes the maximum points there ahead of Leah Kirschner, and Ellen van Dijk hangs on for third. Katie Archibald scores some more points there in fourth, 2 points, and then Lucinda Brandt, the other lead-out rider for Team Sunweb, takes that 1 point. Manon Lloyd, it looks like, that's now leading out. Great Britain. In terms of the tactics here from Great Britain, because it's sometimes difficult, isn't it, as what is really a composite team here. They're made up of Manon Lloyd, they've got Eleanor Barker in there, Olympic champion. They've got Eleanor Dickinson, a young rider who's really coming through. Megan Barker, Claire Rose, who's the British time trial champion, and then EJ Harris. Sometimes as a team you come together and you've got to gel very quickly, haven't you, out on the road?
Yeah, so for all the other professional teams, they're racing race in, race out all together, so they know each other. But for these riders, it's, you know, they're only just come together today, and it's an opportunity for them. But it is quite difficult to gel as a team, as you say. What's interesting, so for example, that happens at World Championships, so national teams are formed for World Championships, often with riders from different professional teams who don't race together, and that can make it difficult.
For the Great Britain selectors here, though, at this point in the season, they're starting to have one eye on the World Championships, aren't they, to try and potentially get Lizzie Deignan back into that rainbow jersey. Yeah,
and this is an opportunity to give riders a chance in the GB jerseys, just to see how people are going. Obviously, we've got GB riders racing for Drop Cycling, for WNT, for Wiggle. We've got Danny King on the front there for Silence. So they get the opportunity to race with their professional team. But races like this, which can have a national team, it gives them the opportunity.
So for the first time, just on the left of your picture there, the green jerseys, the green and black of Silence come up. The first time we're seeing Kirsten Wild now moving up towards the front of this race.
Yeah, I also saw Lisa Brenner there. She's racing for Canyon Schramm, former world champion on the time trial. She'll be, I think, well, she just won Lotto Thuringen, so she's another opportunity rider for today, but I do think she'll be working for Hannah Barnes.
Just saw Claire Rose on the back, just running into the back there for Team GB. And the Great Britain cycling team, Claire Rose, making her way over in the US now, which is quite unusual for a lot of riders. A lot of riders really come from the US over to Europe, but Claire's she races in the USA with the Visit Dallas DNA team. Came back, won the British time trial championships this year, and she's really making a name for herself over in the US.
She is a very aggressive rider. Obviously very good at solo breakaways because of her time trialing ability, and I think she really surprised everybody quite how phenomenal she was in the time trial this year at the National Championships.
Trixie Warrack on the front here for Canyon Schramm, and now in the way Canyon SRAM do. Again, they've been fairly active early on, then just take the foot off the gas a little bit, just see how the race is going to pan out. And now when they get to this point, they've got those two sprinters in there. So it's between Hannah Barnes and Barbara Gorishki. What would you do at this point? Do you throw everything into one rider on the lead out and let the other rider just try and play off everybody else, or do you just try and work for both of them?
I think it'll be interesting to see what they do, because they also have Lisa Brenner, who's been sprinting very well. So we'll watch as we develop into the last few laps to see how aggressive Canyon SRAM are going to be, or whether they're going to save it all for a proper lead out.
So Manon Lloyd on the front for the Great Britain cycling team. Good move by her to try and get clear, but yet again just pulled back. No one letting anything get away. 5 laps to go this time. 5 laps to go. So this is going to tick off very quickly now. With still no breakaways that we've seen in this race. Looking at it so far, do you think anything can get away now in the back end of this race?
No, I think it's unlikely. We did see La Course a couple of years ago in similar race conditions. Anna van der Breggen attacked, I think, actually within the last couple of kilometres. So it's possible. But in La Course we have the cobbles, and we don't have that here. So I think it's 99% chance it's going to be a bunch sprint.
You better not give them ideas, because I'm sure we can find plenty of cobblestones here in London to put the race over.
That's very true. Just there on the front, I think that's Nikki Harris. She's another British rider racing for Bowles Dolmans, cyclocross rider, and she, of course, went to the Olympic Games with Lizzie Dinan last year.
Nikki Brammeyer, the orange jersey there, Christine Majerus, looking quite relaxed on the front, Christine Majerus.
She is, and we've seen quite a bit of her.
And Danny King just sweeping the Silence riders behind her, and just really, again, Danny making that transition this year from the track to the road. She's put the disappointment of missing out on the Rio Olympics behind her, and just trying to make her way now on the road within this Silence team. Yeah,
she moved to the Silence team from Wiggle High Five, who she raced for a number of years. I think she wanted the opportunity to be more of a leader. She's worked very hard for the team as a domestique with Wiggle High Five, and I think that's the role she'll be playing today. But in the stage races, she's had a chance to go for her own opportunities.
A good rider as well, the Team Pursuits Olympic champion, and for track riders such as Danny, this role as well of a lead-out rider for the likes of Kirsten Wilders. Lydia Boylan now makes a move over the top with Eleanor Barker right on the wheel, where they just have to find their role, don't they, on the road?
Yep, Lydia Boylan, she's of course the Irish champion, and that's why she's wearing this white and green jersey as opposed to the jersey that Katie Archibald is racing in, which is blue and white.
And Lydia Boylan, she's another rider really that you can look at in terms of the growth of this race and watching them race through this, and the program that she has within the WNT team now, going out into Europe, riding those stage races, riding those big races week in, week out. It shows how much you can change as a rider. She had a great stage victory early on in the season in Valencia, and I really think she's a shining example of how the sport's growing in this country, as a big move goes here from Alexandra Manley.
Yeah, that's Orica Scott, the Australian team. They actually were very aggressive last year with Jessica Allen towards the closing stages, and Jessica Allen's actually spent a few seconds out on her own in the front.
So a few riders retiring into the pits area here. You can see riders that have just been tailed off from the start of what has been an incredible pace from the start here in the Prudential Ride London Classique. We're getting towards the final laps here, and all of those sprinters teams have prevented any breakaways from getting away. And we just saw it there, Sharon, that as soon as anything goes, the likes of Silence, they're straight on them. They're coming into this with an absolute plan of how they want to play this one out.
Yeah, I think there's too many strong teams here who want a bunch sprint, and that's why they're not letting anything go. Pace is really, really high. The nature of the course, the weather, and I think that's why we're not seeing any breakaways stay away.
So the Lenswell quota colours move back through to the front. But again, Ball Dolmans in that orange, that's the ominous figures just latch onto that one. Savello Bigler, Ashley Moolman, Passio. I think as well we're seeing Eleanor Barker there with the black helmet in the red, white and blue of the Great Britain cycling team. Eleanor's a sort of rider, again, she's had another win on the road. She's making a good transition from the track, former junior world time trial champion. She's the sort of rider that we could watch at the back end of this to try and take a flyer and steal this one from the sprinters.
Yeah, she would have got a lot of confidence from her stage win recently in Europe, and it's great to see her racing and having the opportunity to race with the GB national team.
I think I've seen as well that over the winter a lot of the races that I was commentating on the track, and seeing Eleanor come back from just riding the team pursuit back into the bunch races, the omniums that are out there as well. She's got a fantastic turn of speed on the track and really making that stick now on the road. Danny King though back through here in the green and black of Silence. Ashley Moolman Passio not been far away from the front throughout this race. Now FDJ come through as well, the red, white and blue colours of FDJ. And I watched them. I was lucky enough to commentate the French National Championships this year, and they managed to absolutely dominate the French title. I felt quite sorry for Audrey Cordon-Ragot. I think she's going to ask Rochelle Gilmore to sign a few more French riders, because she was completely isolated, and every time she moved, the FDJ riders were right on her. But again, it's good to see that team who've come through from the Poitou-Charentes Futuroscope team getting that connection now with FDJ in France.
Yeah, they've really developed, and they've taken a number of international riders, including Shara Gillow, an Australian rider who's not here today. Shara Gillow's done really well in the climbing races and did particularly well in the course. And Roxanne Kneteman, a Dutch rider, is also on the team, and she's racing here today.
It's good as well, isn't it, as a team? It helps with the dynamic sometimes, doesn't it, to have a few international riders in a team, especially a French team, just adds a little bit of international flair, if you like, within the dynamic of the team.
It does, and I think it makes a difference. Obviously, cycling cultures are different in different countries, as we're saying. Cycling's quite new and just slightly different in the UK than it is in France, where it's had the old tradition and it's perhaps a bit more old school. And Australia is much more like the UK, so I think it's really interesting to have that injection.
I think what's interesting as well within women's professional cycling in the fact that we see so many nations. It is a real collective group of nations, isn't it, that within women's cycling. And our world tour, we've got well-established races such as the Tour of Chongming Island, which have been around for many, many years. We've got riders here, you can see we've got riders from Israel, we've got our national champions, we've got a Swedish champion, you've got your days, women's pro cycling is very, very global, isn't it?
Yeah, which is quite different to some of the other women's sports or sports which have involved women, because then you tend to have it concentrated on just a couple or 3 or 4 nations. So that's one of the most exciting things about the women's peloton.
4 laps to go, sprint lap this time. Will we see Team Sunweb back through to the front? Christine Majeras taking the last sprint, Katie Archibald taking the first one. These are really ramping up. Alexandra Manley moves up on the left there for Orica Scott. The Silence team in these green and black jerseys have got to keep themselves well to the front. At which point now we've got 4 to go. You've got to, within a team, the communication amongst the riders. We'll start to see these teams over the next couple of laps collecting their sprinters and starting to organise their lead-outs.
Yeah, we spoke earlier about some teams won't necessarily have picked their key kind of lead rider, because they'll go into the race with options. But by this point, the riders will have communicated between each other about whose legs are feeling good and who wants to go for the sprint.
Because sometimes as well, when you've got weather such as this, the water, even on a short race such as this, as the race goes on, it really can play havoc with your legs, can't it? That's
right. Some riders don't race so well in the rain or don't race so well in the heat, and that's a very individual, personal thing. As we said, Trixie Warack, Lucinda Brandt really love the rain, and they'll be loving it today because it really, really is pouring.
Did you love the rain?
No, I didn't like the rain. Although I must admit, I did actually tend to race a bit better in the rain, because I think I wasn't quite so nervous because I was a bit more used to it. But I still didn't like it.
We're waterproof. We're from Britain, aren't we? So we're used to the rain. And Ashley Moorman-Passio up towards the front. Christine Majerus looking very relaxed in third wheel in that Luxembourg Champions jersey. Canyon Stram are looking strong. Lisa Brennauer on the right there. There's Hannah Barnes there, just in the centre of your picture in that black helmet. Good to see Hannah now getting up towards the front. And Hannah she will want the victory here tonight.
She will, and that's the first time we've seen her, so she's been hiding really well. And I really hope we can see her on the podium tonight.
In terms of the Women's World Tour, they go here from Ride London. They then move on to Vårgårda to the team time trial, and they've also got the Vårgårda Classic after this one as well. So lots of racing still to come in the Women's World Tour this season. Yeah,
that's also followed by the Tour of Norway. So I think these weather conditions could be setting them up nicely for the next couple of months.
Yeah, the Scandinavian races are going to be sometimes, again, a little bit changeable up there. I think it's great to see the Ladies Tour of Norway now on the World Tour calendar as well. It's a race I did a couple of years ago as a director sportive, and it's a really good race. I love Norway.
It was a great race. I raced last year. Unfortunately, it did pour with rain every single stage though, and it was my last ever road race, so it doesn't have that good memories, but it was very beautiful.
Yeah, welcome to Scandinavia. There's some good stuff up there as well. Lenswell Quota turning the heat up now on the front of the peloton. Manon Lloyd straight on here from the Great Britain cycling team. Just seeing the Swiss national champion getting up there as well.
Yeah, we've also got Danny King. She's staying well to the front there.
So Danny King, remember a couple of years ago, Danny King, when she was with Wiggle High Five, she was very active in attacking in this race. So she knows this circuit well, but it's all about team orders here for Cylance. They've got a great director sportive as well of the Cylance team, very experienced and very highly respected as well.
Yeah, I've been fortunate enough to race under Manel Lacambra, Spanish director sportif, and he's always known as being very aggressive and but also very motivating. And he'll definitely got all of his money set on Kirsten Wild today.
Cervelo Bigler are moving through. They've got those couple of national champions jerseys, but you can see now this constant ebb and flow of the peloton as everyone battles hard to get up towards the front. We now see the world champion of Amelie Didriksen just moving up on the left of your picture in that white jersey with the rainbow bands and the white helmet.
Yeah, we've got 3 WNT riders there, all with the very distinctive red helmets there, so they'll be getting Katie Archibald ready for this next sprint.
They are now starting to put another couple of riders now in front of Katie Archibald for this final sprint. I'll be interested. Katie Archibald, though, as a rider, we say, and the effort that she's making on these intermediate sprints. I've seen, when you watch Katie race a points race and you watch her race on the track, she just has boundless amounts of energy, doesn't she?
Yeah, that's true. And obviously in the points race, she's used to doing these multiple sprints, so she's probably not too scared about doing them a few times and also going for the very finish.
Manon Lloyd keeping the pressure on for Great Britain cycling here. Giorgia Bronzini for Wiggle High Five moves up towards the front. Majerus down the outside of the group. Christine Majerus in that incredibly relaxed style from the Bull Dolmans rider out of that corner, puts herself into a good position here, and you can almost sense Christine Majerus here just thinking, right, come on, Team Sunweb, I'll battle you on my own.
Yeah, she looks very comfortable, so it'll be interesting to see whether she's actually going to go for the sprint or she'll be working for the current world champion, Amelia Didriksen.
Katarzyna Pawlowska on the front in the orange. Bull Dolmans getting up, you now see, with the world champion in second wheel and Christine Majerus in third. She's got a bit of help here on this lap, Christine Majerus.
Yeah, and Amelia Didriksen there. It's going to be interesting to see who they're going to go for the final sprint. Georgina Bronzini there, she's on Majerus's wheel. She's been very close to the front the whole race. Very, very experienced rider. She was actually going to retire at the end of last year, but was persuaded to carry on to ride another year. And of course, she can really transfer her experience to the rest of her teammates.
I think she's almost talking about doing another year, isn't she, Georgia Bronzini? She's just loving racing too much. We're heading now under Admiralty Arch and in towards the sprints. And it's Paul Dolmans leading out, Pavlovska, Deirdrichsen and Majerus, Lucinda Brandt and Leah Kirschman in the black and white from Team Sunweb. Pavlovska, another strong track rider is Katarzyna Pavlovska. Lucinda Brandt now opens it up for Leah Kirschman. There's Christine Majerus. Deirdrichsen, though, the world champion, just maybe checking out this finish here for the finale. And she's going to take that one with Majerus, Kirschman and Bronzini getting up there.
Yeah, no sign of Katie Archibald on that sprint. So interesting move there by Boels Dolman. So it'll be, yeah, whether de Dirksen's checking out the sprint ready for the finish or whether they'll be going for Christine Majerus. It's going to be a fascinating last lap.
It's an interesting one, though, as a sprinter, isn't it? When you have this opportunity, and you could almost sense that that's what Deirdrichsen could be thinking. You want to, where's the wind coming from? What's my gear selection going to be? How far out from the finish do I want to launch my final sprint?
Yeah, and often riders don't get the opportunity to do this. In a stage race, for example, it's a point-to-point race. We saw that quite a bit in the women's tour. And when we get this opportunity in a circuit, the riders can check out things, check out which side of the road they want to be on, as you said, which side the wind's coming from. And also they can sort of practice a lead out.
And Amelie Deirdrichsen, again, another rider that crosses over a lot from she's been a world champion on the track, she's been a world champion as a junior as well. So to step up already and take the senior title is pretty impressive.
It was really impressive and fantastic to see her win the World Championships last year. She came, as you said, she came out of the middle of nowhere and definitely wasn't really one of the top favourites, and she beat Kirsten Wild in that race.
Into that hot dog turn and wiggle high five. You can see constantly each rider, I think it's Julie Leth that's up towards the front now for wiggle high five, just setting that pace.
Yeah, Julie Leth, a Danish rider, so she was actually on the World Championship team for when Amelia de Dirksen won the World Championships. She's a very experienced rider, very, very good domestique. Also another rider that's based herself in Girona, along with Nettie Edmondson, who's just there in the left of the corner. She's just having a gel. A lot of riders moving over to Girona. The weather's really good, roads are quiet for training, and it seems to be a bit of a hub for the women, for the women cyclists.
Phenomenal place, Girona.
Yeah, I was fortunate enough to live there for about four or 5 years, and really, really one of the best places I've lived.
There's confirmation of your sprint. Amelie Deirdrichsen takes it. 5 points. Christine Majerus, Leah Kirschman, Georgia Bronzini, and Lucinda Brandt hangs on to take the 1 point. We'll bring you the overall in the sprints competition as soon as we have it. But it really has been impressive just how much everyone has fought out this sprints competition here this evening.
Yeah, definitely worthwhile though. €1,000 for each sprint and 3,000 if you win the overall. So that's not to be sniffed at.
So some good trips around London and good dinners later on for the riders and the teams. Christine Majerus, you see now starting that final sprint done. Christine Majerus, the job now shifts from Majerus, from fighting out for that sprints competition back to team worker here for the likes of Deirdrichsen. Yeah,
Boels Dolmans, as we said, only have 5 riders here today, but they're still being really, really aggressive.
More of them moving up. Looks like Amy Peters moving up towards the front in that orange. So this race coming towards the final laps. Can anyone manage to break the stranglehold in this race of the sprinters teams and try and get away? We're seeing a lot of Great Britain jerseys moving towards the front of the race. Manon Lloyd's been very active near the front.
Yeah, great to see her, another young rider, and great to see her up here. And one thing we should perhaps mention today is this is one of the Women's World Tour events. Of course, there are points, 120 points up for the win. The 3 top riders in the ranking, though, Anna van der Breggen, and Annemiek van Vleuten and Kasia Niewiadoma aren't actually racing here today. Elisa Longo-Borghini lies in 4th place, and she's also not here. So I had a look at the rankings, and Corinne Rivera needs to finish in the top 8 to actually move into 4th place. So that, as well as taking the victory, that would be another really good move for her into 4th place. She's sat out a number of the races recently, which is why Anna van der Breggen, who won the Giro Rose, has been doing so well. And she'll be after those points as well as the overall victory today.
The next race in Sweden, in Vårgårda, it's the sort of race as well that would suit Corinne Rivera. It's not a super hard course, got a bit of a climb on the circuit, but it's got a really good fast run into the finish.
Yeah, Emilia Farlin won that race last year, which was phenomenal for her, obviously a home race, and fantastic to see her get the win. And yeah, I definitely think Corinne could pick up the points here today, and then at Sweden as well.
Ashley Moorman-Passio back on the front. And,
WN3 with those yellow splashy helmets, they're moving to the front as well.
Mariana Voss, again, another rider that's been super quiet in this race.
Yeah,
the legend of our sport.
Yeah, we haven't seen her at all, and she has to be, I think, the most decorated female cyclist that we ever have across all disciplines: mountain bike, cyclocross, track and the road. It is phenomenal and amazing for the British public to have a champion like her racing on the very roads in which they're just standing right next to her.
I mean, if you look at Mariana Voss's career across all disciplines, I counted 351 times she's had her hands in the air.
Yeah, she's just such a phenomenal athlete, and a very good role model for the sport and for young girls to look up to. Very gentle, very well spoken, and it's really, really fantastic to see her back racing again after breaking her collarbone earlier this year.
She, again, as a rider, how hard is it as a pro rider to, when you have that kind of disappointment? She went down really heavy in the OVO Women's Tour. She broke her collarbone, and this comes after she battled her way back from a hamstring injury, which really hampered her. And it almost seemed like when she was away injured with that hamstring injury, everyone just there was this swell of talent that kind of came through.
Yeah, very, very difficult for her to have been at such a top level and then to have this time out, and then to perhaps not have the success that she's had in the past. But what has been fantastic to see is that she's really taken on the role of mentor and bringing up her team, both at the national level, where she helped Anna van der Breggen to the gold medal in the Olympics Championships, and also on her professional team, where she's been such a linchpin for Kasia Niewiadoma and really, really helping her in all the victories that she's had this year.
Keeping themselves well to the front. Małgorzata Drzezinska is the rider in second wheel here for Team Silence. WN3 starting to mass towards the front, looking to try and deliver Mariana Voss to victory. Here comes Majerus over to the front. Hannah Barnes moving up in that Canyon SRAM jersey. And Barbara Gorishki not far away from Hannah Barnes.
We've also got Trixie Worak, so that whole Canyon SRAM team massing together. And that's really important as we come into these closing stages. They need to be next to each other so they can communicate and also look after their sprinter, which I'm pretty sure here they'll be working for Hannah Barnes, who's looking very, very comfortable and calm in that bunch.
So they're going to see 2 laps to go this time, just 2 remaining. Now you can see the teams. You see, starting to see the teams starting to recollect themselves if they're going to work on their sprint. We just saw Kirsten Veal just wiping some of the water away from her face as she lined up for that corner. Now it's all about trying to keep this race under control, try and prevent anyone from trying to jump away late on, because that's always the danger, isn't it? Even on a fast circuit such as this, you do have those riders within this bunch, those track riders that have got that explosive power that might, just looking at that hot dog turn in towards the finish, throw yourself through that corner and try and launch something towards the finish.
Yeah, this hot dog turn is a real opportunity for a launch pad. But you can see here Nikki Bramier, the British rider, cyclocross rider, she's on the front. She's really setting a good pace for Boels Nolmans.
Brandmeier just lines up. Amy Peters on the wheel. Bulls Dolmans, one of the most respected teams in the world of women's professional cycling. But again, with that comes the fact that a lot of teams then look around at you all the time to do the majority of the work.
Yeah, and that's what happened at the Women's Tour earlier this year, where we saw Kassiane Iwedoma win the first stage by 1:40, and that was purely because the teams were looking at Bulls Dolmans to take up the work and to do the chase, and they simply said, we're not doing it. And for that reason, Kassiane Iwedoma had such a big lead on that after that first stage that she went on to win the whole tour.
So Sarah Penton in that bright Swedish champions yellow and blue jersey moves through on the centre. FDJ in the red, white and blue colours, all trying to get themselves up towards the front of the race. You just see everyone grimacing through the wet here. It's tricky, isn't it, when you're in this? You see a lot of riders now that have dispensed with their glasses, even clear glasses on when it's this wet. You got to keep trying to keep wiping them down all the time.
Yeah, the rain has been relentless. I think we were hoping it was going to ease a bit, but if anything, I think it's got worse, and quite a lot of water on the road. It's been impressive. We haven't seen, well, I should touch wood, but we haven't seen too many crashes, and the pace has been kept high. And Bulls Dolmans back on the front here, Christine Majerus.
I haven't seen so Amelie Deirdrickson has just dropped back, and this is what is interesting as well. You've got the three Bulls Dolmans riders on the front. Amelie Deirdrickson, who's the rider that they're working for, she's just sitting back within getting a bit of shelter within the peloton, and she doesn't want to be too close to the front and again catching too much wind and using too much energy even at this late stage of the race.
Yeah, so if you're inside the peloton in the middle, then you do save a lot of energy. So that's Lenswell Kyoto again. They're being very, very aggressive today.
When Anda Sport makes a big move off the front, they've got Annalisa Cuccinota, who's a good sprinter in their team.
Quickly tracked, I think that's a WN3 rider though, and Cervelo Bigler rider, third wheel there.
So neutralised there by Danny King.
Danny King, yep.
And Ashley Moorman-Passio up towards the front, but Lenswell Quota, again, they've got Cuccinota, but she really sometimes has to get that luck, Cuccinota, to be able to take that victory. So Lenswell Quota doing the right thing here at the back end of this race, just to try and mix this one up, try and break the stranglehold of the sprinters at the front of the race and try and steal this one.
Yeah, the pace is really high. The riders are lined out here. Bulls Dolmans very active, and WM3 rider there.
Tatiana Godurzo just on the back of the group. So they're topping and tailing this one, but look at this this movement now on the left here from the Canyon SRAM team. A quite noticeable change now for the lead out from Canyon SRAM.
Yeah, all of the riders are together there on the left-hand side of the screen. You can sort of see that turquoise and black, pink. They've got a bit of everything.
I'm just seeing Chloe Hosking in that orange helmet in the fluorescent yellow and orange from Ale Cipollini, wearing number 12. Chloe Hosking again has kept herself very, very quiet in this race, and it's interesting to see here for Ale Cipollini that not a lot of riders around Chloe Hosking. She's going to have to use the likes of Canyon SRAM here, and just as I say that, they all start to surround her.
Yeah, Cipollini, the Ale Cipollini team, very a sprint team. They took a sprint team to the Giro, so they had quite a bit of practice, and Chloe did pretty well at the Giro, so it'll be interesting to see how well she can do here today.
Cervelo Bigler straight through to the front to try and keep this pace nice and high. Lotta Lepisto in second wheel there, the Finnish champion.
We also see Team Sunweb amassing together there, three riders, and they're just looking calm and comfortable. They've had a lot of practice this year at lead-outs, and haven't actually seen Corinne Rivera though, so it'll be interesting if we can spot her.
I was just having a look just to see if I could see Corinne Rivera. There's Amelia Farlene in the centre of your picture, the Swiss national champion. On the front here come Ale Cipollini and Marta Bastianelli. So it looks like Ale Cipollini today are going to put all the cards for Chloe Hosking in this sprint.
There's Orica Scott coming up on the right-hand side of the screen as well. They've got Gracie Elvin, who finished on the podium at the Tour of Flanders, and also Sarah Roy. And Team Tibco, the American team, in the Flora helmet, they're also there.
Winding it up now, Lotte Lepisto. I think Lepisto, do you think maybe a little bit too close to the front, too early here?
I think she's been at the front a lot, and though she hasn't been on the front, she's been sitting, you know, in the top 5 wheels, and she is using up more energy. So, yeah, it'll be interesting to see how well she can do in the final sprint.
So a big effort now from Cervelo Bigla, just to try and keep this pace nice and high for Lotte Lepisto, who's in 3rd wheel. Dalle Cipollini moving up, so it takes a lot sometimes, doesn't it, to keep this pressure on the front of the race and keep that lead out intact.
Yeah, this is Christine Perchold from Cervelo Bigla. She's wearing red as opposed to the other riders who are wearing blue, because she's the Austrian champion, and she's really keeping this pace high. 1 lap to go.
So final lap here in the Prudential Ride London Classic. Relentless pace from the start. Everyone wanted this to come down to a bunch sprint. It's all playing into the hands of the likes of Kirsten Wild, Chloe Hosking, Corinne Rivera. All of the sprinters have played this race perfectly. There's Chloe Hosking in that orange helmet with the fluorescent yellow jersey, just moving up on the outside, as Canyon Schramm on the outside latch on to Amy Peters from Bull Dolman.
This is going to get really, really exciting now. Pace is so high, and it's just going to be constant fighting for the wheels. You really need to be at the front now. Remember, we've got those hot dog turns, and if you're too far back, that's when you're going to be wasting your energy. So we'll see the sprinters, top sprinters now, trying to be in that top 10 top 10 riders coming around the hot dog circuit.
Amy Peters on the front, her teammate Amelie Deirdrickson, the world champion in the rainbow jersey, not far away from her. Here come Team Tibco through just a little testing little move to the front here for Team Tibco.
Lisa Brenner, she's in the black helmet and the kind of stripy kit there for Canyon Schramm. We've mentioned her before, very, very strong rider. We've got actually 4 riders from Canyon Schramm there. Alexis Ryan, American rider on the team. She's very instrumental to Hannah Barnes's success. Very good domestic rider.
Lauren Stevens from Team Tibco. And again, Team Tibco, the US team, they've been around for many, many years, haven't they? They've been a real strong team in women's world cycling.
Yeah, they've, I think, had one of the longest sponsorships of any of the women's teams, which is fantastic to see, and they've been doing a lot more in Europe, and it's really great to have them here.
Just Lauren Stevens keeping this pace nice and high on the front, and can anyone manage to take a flyer on this final lap? We've seen it previously, riders late on trying to get away, and this 12 laps of 5.5 kilometers here in the City of London is coming to an end. Mikael Kroger just talking into a radio. Looks like Mikael Kroger might have had a problem there. He just saw her shouting to her teammates, and that would be a shame for Canyon Schramm. You can see her dropping back down the peloton quite quickly.
Yeah, Mikael Kroger obviously such a big engine, and they really could do with her at the front for the lead out.
Lauren Stevens really keeping the pressure on here. We'll look around and see where the rest of the Team Tibco riders are.
You see Amelia de Dirksen there in the white helmet and the world champion kit. She's obviously near the front, and I think we could be seeing big things from her today.
Here comes Sunweb. There's Corinne Rivera. You've seen those Sunweb colours. Now they start to move Rivera up towards the front to Team Sunweb. They've led out a lot for the intermediate sprints. What sort of pressure do they still have enough power at the back end of this race to lead out for their sprinter? So you can see from the front, you've got the orange of Bull Dolmans from the helicopter shot down to the 3rd rider, that rainbow jersey, Canyon Schramm, straight down the centre. Watch out for Hannah Barnes and Barbara Gorishki. We see Georgia Bronzini on the left. She's close to Lotte Lepisto and Amelie Deirdrickson.
Yeah, Lucinda Brandt from Sunweb, she'll be protecting Corinne Rivera there. All of the top riders are near the front now.
Bull Dolman putting everything for the world champion. She tested her sprint out on the last of the intermediate sprints. Amy Peters now just moves her teammate across. Amelie Deirdrickson just has a look around just to see where they are. Peters, superpower. She now hands over to her teammate. So a smaller team, as you said here, Sharon, but they've got to try and keep the effort going as long as possible.
Yeah, there we have Chloe Hoskins in the very orange helmet there. She's with her teammates. Silence riders in the green helmet there coming up on the right-hand side. Sunweb, everybody's battling. They need to be near the front now. This is getting really critical.
And here come Canyon Schramm up towards the front of the race. Sunweb getting on the action as well. And you're seeing the Spanish national champion there of Sheila Gutierrez for Silence. They've got to keep the formation there for Kirsten Wild, Chloe Hoskins. So no real dominant lead out here. It's all in ones and twos.
No, as we said, this is Alexis Ryan from Canyon Schramm. She's the American rider I mentioned who has been very, very instrumental in Hannah Barnes' success this year.
Right in the centre there in the white jersey with the black stripes down the centre. That's Corin Rivera, right on schedule. We have not seen her near the front of this race at all. We're seeing Sunweb, Lucinda Brandt comes up, Amelie Deirdrickson battles her way out there, the rainbow jersey. And now you can see here the teammates have gone of Deirdrickson. She has to do this one on her own as Lotto Lepisto dive bombs everyone on that corner.
Amelia de Dirksen, though, looking very, very comfortable in that group. Canyon Schramm looking behind, looking for Hannah Barnes, and they're really putting the hammer down. Pace is very, very high now.
Gotta say, good move there by Lotta Lepisto. Just, as I said, dive bombed everyone on that corner, but it meant that she moved herself up here right into the midst of the Canyon Schramm lead out.
Yeah, she's doesn't really have any teammates around her now, so she, like we mentioned before, she's going to have to surf the other lead-out trains, and she's in a perfect position now.
We're inside 1 kilometre to go. Trixie Worak on the front, Lisa Brenau behind her. Then you have Lotta Lepisto in that Finnish champions jersey moving through.
Christian Majerus is there for Amelia de Dirksen, and Corinne Rivera is also in a perfect position here, but this is Canyon Schramm on the front, really, really setting the pace.
Trixie Worak with Brenauer. Lepisto, though, is getting a free ride here through to the finish. Then you've got Bronzini. Deirdrickson is there. Corin Rivera is well up there. Hosking and where is Kirsten Wild, the winner last year there? She is a little bit far back at the moment. Trixie Worak looks back just to see where her sprinters are. Here comes Christine Majera. She's got the world champion right on her wheel. Lisa Brenau, though, opens up the sprint. Corin Rivera gets dropped off in a perfect position, but at the moment it's Brenauer on the front from Lepisto. Rivera gets into third wheel. They're going to open up this sprint. Brenauer, Lepisto, and here comes Corin Rivera, the American, straight down the centre. Corin Rivera and Lepisto. It's Corin Rivera that takes it. A fantastic victory for the American. Team Sunweb, perfect job today. They brought her up, they dropped her onto the right wheel, and Rivera delivers.
Wow, that was such an incredible ride from Corinne Rivera. We didn't see her all race. Sunweb, I think, did such a phenomenal job on the intermediate sprints, and we were a bit worried whether they hadn't got the firepower at the end, but what a team ride from Sunweb. And also hats off to Lotta Lepisto, so near the front for most of the race, and I think she got second place.
So let's take you through this one. There's Lisa Brenau on the front. There's Lotta Lepisto. Corin Rivera had to close an incredible gap there to get into the slipstream and then slingshot herself towards the line.
Wow, that was super close, and I think Lotta Lepisto did get second. Lisa Brenau there went very, very early, and unfortunately no sign of Hannah Barnes near the finish.
Again, you see the versatility of the Canyon Schramm team, and they need someone else to step up and take it. But Corin Rivera, a shining example as a sprinter. We didn't see her near the front at all until she needed to be there, and that moves her up again in the Women's World Tour standings.
It does. Like I said, that's moved her into fourth place now with the 120 points she's got today, 25,000 euros as well, which she won't be too disappointed with. We can see there's Hannah Barnes just in the shot, so she would have, I think, probably got top 10. Kirsten Wild, though, not on the podium this year. But such a phenomenal race from Corinne Rivera. She's first American to win Tour of Flanders, also won Alfredo Binda. This is her third World Tour win. Absolutely incredible.
It has been a great move for Corinne Rivera into Team Sunweb this year, and that emotion there just shows how much it means to Corinne Rivera. And Mariana Voss there, number 151 for WM3. She gets herself up there in the sprint, so a good return as well for Mariana Voss.
Yeah, I think Mariana Voss was in 4th place there, which when you consider the bad luck that she's had this season, was a phenomenal ride from her. But I have to say, my heart always kind of skips a beat when Corinne Rivera wins, because she's such such an amazing rider, and the emotion that she shows when she finishes. I think when I saw the finish of Flanders, it was wow, yeah, just makes my heart skip a beat. She's just such an amazing rider.
Incredible season. I mean, Corinne Rivera as well as a rider. She's only 24, but I remember hearing of Corinne Rivera when she was just a youth rider in the USA. They've been talking about her for years, and to see a rider come through all the way through the collegiate system in the USA and here 3 World Tour victories in a season is absolutely phenomenal.
Yeah, absolutely incredible. But we really saw some fantastic team riding here from Boels Dolmans, from Canyon SRAM, from Sunweb. Really impressive to see this step up in the women's cycling. And there we just see Corinne Rivera again. What a phenomenal win.
In terms of that, closing that gap, you just saw there as well, seated acceleration onto the wheel, and just kept that snap for when she needed it. When she needed to launch her sprint, that's when she used that power. We just saw doing it kind of Katie Archibald style there, just riding across that gap to Lotte Lepisto in the saddle and saving that big jump for when she needed it.
Yes, and that's what we were saying. She saved the energy through the race by hiding and you know, being really conservative, and she just meant that she had that power that she could use at the end.
Great race. There's last year's winner Kirsten Bild getting up there. There's Voss. You can see Jolien Dahura and Chloe Hosking in that fluorescent yellow jersey with the orange helmet. Not today for the Aussie, but what a day out for the Sunweb team. Those intermediate sprints, we were a bit worried that they were using up a little bit too much energy for the finish, but again, the experience of that top team really showing there at the end, just delivering Corinne Rivera when they needed to, and the beautiful sights here of the city of London.
Yeah, unfortunately very rainy now. I don't think the rain has we've had a respite from the rain. But wow, Team Sunweb, they've gone home today with quite a bit of prize money, and obviously top points on the World Tour, and actually just such exciting racing. And to see that teamwork, both from them, from Canyon SRAM, from Boels Dolmans, I think we've really had a treat tonight.
Indeed, the pressure on from start to finish, it was just utterly relentless, wasn't it? It just didn't stop. We just didn't see. Normally, even when it's fast, we'll see some sort of breakaways, won't we? But tonight, just so quick from start to finish. It just everyone really set off the way they meant to go on.
Yeah, it'll be really interesting to see the average speed compared to last year. Last year we did have quite a few escapees, not for very long, but there were definitely some breaks. But this year, nothing stayed away. This is Corinne Rivera's team, Lucinda Brandt there, and we just saw Molly Weaver, so fantastic to see her, British rider, as we said, coming back from her really bad accident earlier this year. Obviously a very happy team here.
Great job by Lucinda Brandt for Team Sunweb. Just rolling out, you see there, that's their hashtag creating moments for the team.
Yeah, what's really interesting, a lot of the riders here have chosen to race in skin suits, which are kind of similar to the suits which people race with when they're using a time trial. Much more aero as opposed to the race jersey and shorts. Very happy winner there.
Great to see. See her celebrating the victory there for Team Sunweb. And there's confirmation of your top 10 today. Corin Rivera takes that from Lotte Lepisto. Lisa Brenner, Mariana Voss, last year's winner Kirsten Veal, Julian De Hura, Amelie Deirdrickson, Roxanne Fournier gets up there in 8th. Barbara Gorishki, another former winner, in 9th. And again, another former winner there in 10th place for Giorgia Bronzini of Wiggle High 5. And an hour and 29 minutes of racing, so that was quick. It
was. I think if I remember rightly, last year it was just over 1 hour 28, so very similar. And given the conditions compared to last year, it's a phenomenally fast ride.
So you can see the riders there pretty happy. Everything done for them. They put on quite a show here in the City of London. So some great shots here. Maybe not for the riders. The very low cloud cover.
I must say again, that's a very, very good ride from Lotte Lepisto to get 2nd place. She's managed to do really well this season. When the conditions are bad and it's raining, you often see her pop up. So really, really great ride.
I think when we walked, when we saw that run in, it was a really gutsy move. The way she just dived into that hot dog turn. There's always that risk, especially in these conditions, isn't there? That it might just all go horribly wrong.
Yeah, I think I've seen that move before, and I think she did a similar move on the Sparkerson Gira a few years back, and that was how she got the offer for racing for Bigler, because the manager saw that and took her on, and it was a really, really good move because she's just grown as a rider and really got some fantastic results now.
There's the shots there of Wembley Stadium, and from one London landmark to another, Big Ben. They're doing the work on the around Big Ben, so the bells are going to fall silent soon, aren't they, on Big Ben?
Yeah, that's right. It'll be quite a shock for London, I think. And of course, riders will be, or the British public will be getting ready for their ride tomorrow, because we have the Big Sportif ride, which I did last year, and also a phenomenal atmosphere, complete road closure, 160 kilometres, 100 miles, the Prudential Ride London.
And it's now, because of the participation, the biggest cycling mass participation event in the world.
Yes, I remember doing the Argus in South Africa, which was, I think, previously the biggest participation race, and the organisers from Ride London came out to see how that was operating. But now with the 7 events which they have at this cycling festival, this has now become the biggest mass participation event.
So confirmation there. So confirmation you saw there of Corin Rivera. So a fantastic performance here this evening. We've got